All right, folks, welcome back to the Crisis Report. This one is entitled Tanker Mayhem Worsens, and this is what's been going on with the oil tankers down in the Southcom region of the world, or the Caribbean, with the United States using its Coast Guard and military, i.e. the Navy, to confront and board a lot of these sanctioned tankers that are going in and out of Venezuela. Also going to be talking about some stuff going on in the Middle East and some stuff going on in Europe, your usual stuff. So we appreciate you being here. If you could hit that like button and everything. I put out a not so sexy, but just kind of thoughtful video on where I think things are going for 2026. And I did that over on PrepperNow, the mother channel, if you will. And so if you'd like to go on over there and check it out, nothing earth-shattering. I basically believe that the two main places you need to worry about are in our neck of the woods here in this hemisphere, and then in the Middle East. And so I go into a little bit more detail, of course, and why I think the other places are bad, but in a bit of a holding pattern. And so, yeah, we'll be talking about precious metals. Speaking of which, we are sponsored by and have a partnership with Augusta Precious Metals. They take your 401k and your IRA and they put it into gold and silver. And the people that are doing that right now are quite happy. So if you are interested in such things, go for it. Check it out, and they will guide you, and they will tell you all about what they do. And then from there, you can either proceed or you can say, nope, no thank you. And that's what it is. So we appreciate you. We're going to get started here. This is, again, I've kind of decided that I don't know. I want to be taken seriously, and there's a time to sit there and act like your hair is on fire, and there's a time when it's just to be kind of calm and steady, and this is what's going on. And so I know that the name Prepper doesn't really exactly put that into people's minds, but the funny thing is that it should. It literally should. Prepper shouldn't be a person that's crazy and, knocks over a grocery station. A prepper is a person that uses their head and is calm and understands, the geopolitical landscape and does just a few things to kind of buffer and ready for what's to come. And, there's a lot of stuff going on that we need to take seriously. And if you do things now, then you would be wise to do that. Magic Prepper just had a video earlier today. It's not a long one. But he kind of said the same thing. It's this nobody's coming to save you. This is as good as it gets. You should go get it now kind of thing. And I agree with him. I thought it was a good video. I like Magic Prepper. He's one of my favorite channels, and the reason why is because he's a smart guy, but he's a calm guy, and he knows that all of this stuff is really intense but slow rolling towards us, and so we need to use what we have now to do so. And so I commend him on his good video. I told him about that. So for you and I, this should be a time of getting ready. This should be a time of doing everything we can to prepare ourselves. At the end of this broadcast, I'm going to be telling you about the crappy stuff that's going on in our housing situation. I know that there's problems going on in the housing situation, so much so that I decided to sell my house and go in and do things that are going to get me in a way that is ready to kind of take on what's to come. I think our cash is trash. I think physical assets are going to be a wise investment. No, I'm not a financial advisor, But I think that these things should be considered, and you do your own due diligence, you make your own decision. This is the things that I've done. And so my wife and I have been pretty successful in everything. And we were able to thankfully sell our house, and now we're moving into a place with a good amount of land and water, and it's in a safe area, and we're very excited. We feel blessed from God, to say the least. So hopefully you're doing things to get yourself ready for some crazy stuff to come. But here's the thing, it's not going to come tomorrow. And 2026 will largely go as 2025, and that's at least I think. I think we do have some geopolitical things that will happen that we should start to consider and talk about now. And so that's what we're going to do here. All right, so let's get started on that endeavor. We are going to get this up. This is on Substack. If you would like to join the growing amount of people that are joining me there, it would be wonderful. You can get it for free, or if you like what we're doing here and you think it's worth your couple bucks, you can sign up to do that as well. So either one is cool. We're just glad to have you here. Also, you can become a member here, like the fantabulous people over here. Like who we got Water Tiger. Water Tiger is a member. Thank you. Let's see, who's the other one? I know Bad Bobber. Was Bad Bobber here? Gene W., thank you for being a member. So we appreciate you. I do put all this together, as you guys know, and try to do as good a job as possible so you guys have as much information as possible, and from many, many, many different sides. I want to see everything from every side and get an evolved view. All right, let's get started. We'll put in the thing that starts at 7 minutes for the impatient types. And here we go. This is your crisis report, December 21st, 2025. Happy solstice, everybody. Tanker Mayhem worsens. Energy Dome's CO2 battery gains traction globally. The CO2 battery is a novel long-duration energy storage system using a large inflatable dome to hold 2,000 tons of supplied carbon dioxide in a closed loop. That is an interesting concept, and hopefully something that will become beneficial to mankind. Palantir CEO Alex Karp buys a Catholic monastery in Aspen, $120 million, set on 3,700 acres. Property has been owned for 70 years by an order of Trappist monks, with a half dozen still living on the property. I wonder if they make beer. Trappist monks are known to make beer, for those that don't know. DNI Tulsi Gabbard warns that the EU and NATO are pushing to pull the U.S. into a world war with Russia, while deep state actors are blocking peace negotiations. California State Senator Scott Wiener wants to implement policies that would allow children to change things without parental consent. Tulsi Gabbard has denied claims that the U.S. intelligence warned Vladimir Putin plans to take over all of Ukraine and reclaim parts of Europe once controlled by the Soviet Union. President Putin's special envoy, Kirill Dmitriev, says that Russia is fighting against Satanism. He also added in sorcery. It's an interesting post. We'll have more here in a moment. Reports suggest that more than 30 people per day are being arrested in the United Kingdom over social media posts deemed offensive or hateful. That is a problem. Lindsey Graham says that the United States government should seize ships transporting Russian oil worldwide. Democrat senators do not support the idea of impeaching Attorney General Pam Bondi. Vice President J.D. Vance says that in America today, you no longer need to apologize for being white. Vice President J.D. Vance says that after Charlie Kirk's death, he stayed up all night investigating conspiracy theories about the true cause of his death. U.S. Department of Justice releases a fact sheet on the Epstein files that justifies covering up people that do terrible things to children. Federal Reserve is set to pump up to $7 billion into financial markets tomorrow to relieve year-end liquidity pressures, showing that a problem. That's one of the main things I said on my video on PrepperNow is that it's the financials you got to worry about. Get yourself out of debt, folks. Israel warns the Trump administration that Iran's missile exercise may be preparation for a potential strike on Israel. Turning Point USA has named Nicki Minaj the female leader of Christianity. Please, someone tell me that is a joke. Lindsey Graham says President Trump should drop massive bombs on Lebanon, a country that millions of Christians, to force it to submit to Israel. So I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but that's something to what he said. President Trump is set to make a major announcement tomorrow from Mar-a-Lago alongside Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the Secretary of the Navy. Malaysia court rejects ex-Prime Minister Najib's bid to serve sentence under house arrest. United States Coast Guard, with the support of the Department of War, seized oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. We're going to have a lot more about that here in a moment. Complete blackout has hit parts of San Francisco. That was yesterday. Due to power outage, Waymo halted service during massive San Francisco blackout after the self-driving vehicles got stuck, causing traffic jams. San Francisco, hit by the huge electricity outage, affected 130,000 residents, according to power provider. Aerial view of San Francisco blackout is all over the place now. Waymos were like stuck on crosswalks. They couldn't follow the street lights and stuff. And so, yeah, it's almost like you don't want everything to be electric and powered. Like there's something to be said about some analog in our world, but we'll see. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who's heckled and booed by the crowd at the Bondi Memorial event for victims at the tragic terrorist attack on Bondi Beach. Pre-dawn action early this morning on December 20th, the U.S. Coast Guard, with the support of the Department of War, apprehended an oil tanker that was docked in Venezuela. The names have been all over the place, but there's a lot of this that you're going to be listening to, but it gives you an evolved view. Hopefully you saw my short. I'm starting to do shorts on here too. It's about how basically on the high seas, satellites really don't work outside of just off the coast. So when you're on the high seas, they don't have the ability to focus in on stuff like they do elsewhere. So satellites aren't really noticing stuff, and people have wondered, why is it that you can't really, they don't have satellites to be able to do that. Main thing is, well, I've got some conspiracy theories, so I'll keep them to myself. Vessel, which was flying the Panamanian flag, was not on a list of tankers under U.S. sanctions, but the vessel involved in the recent boarding, called the Centuries, not on the list. It's publicly maintained by the Treasury Department, or that is publicly maintained by the Treasury Department. Industry sources said the cargo belonged to the established China-based oil trader, history of taking Venezuelan crude to oil to Chinese refineries. International law states a ship may be boarded if there are reasonable grounds to believe it is not legitimately registered to the state whose flag it is flying. Interesting. All right, sorry. A U.S. official said the Coast Guard was trying to determine if the tanker's Panama registration was valid. Boarding and seizing of Centuries, unlike Skipper, will raise issues regarding the legality and authority of the U.S. boarding MT Centuries is Panama-flagged, Hong Kong-owned, and does not have any sanctions from OFAC or any other country. She has moved sanctions cargo in the past and has conducted questionable ship-to-ship transfers at sea. The ship came in from Singapore and started spoofing AIS on 24th November, northern coast of Brazil. Ship loaded 1.7 million barrels of Mary crude at the Jose terminal on December 9th, and that, of course, is a violation of the U.S. sanctions. Appears to have a valid registry to Panama, not clear insurance, American Steamship Owners Mutual P&I up to November 2024. Classification is overseas marine. Since the ship was valid registration, Article 110 of the UNCLOS does not apply. What we don't know is if the U.S. obtained permission from Panama to board the ship and potentially seize the ship. There are a lot of questions. The U.S. expands this program against tankers. We're going to have some of the answers here in a moment. U.S. crackdown on Latin America is largely about pushing China out of the neighborhood and pivoting on a strategy of hemispheric defense instead of trying to contain China on its own turf. The trend in the below map in Latin America. I mentioned this on my video earlier on PrepperNow. This is the new doctrine of America. It's more akin to the Monroe Doctrine. And basically, it's our hemisphere is ours and stay the F out as it pertains to what goes on over in China. Let China do China. Ukraine lost 87% of its Abrams tanks in under 2 years. Australia's 49 replacement tanks arrive as the 68-ton breakthrough weapon has been forced into a different role. Now used not as a spear point, but a shielded hammer, only surviving in a symphony of sensors, jammers, and screens. Netanyahu has confirmed to visit President Trump, 5th time this year, December 29th, where it is reported that he will ask the president to participate in a second campaign against Iran to diminish their ballistic missile arsenal. The inevitable outcome of the 12-day war from Operation Midnight Hammer made nuclear diplomacy almost impossible, and because Israel continues to seek the comprehensive strategic defeat of Iran, and that's exactly what they're doing. And I think that's the number one problem that we face in 2026. Israel is looking to compel the disarmament of Hezbollah in Lebanon, popular mobilization forces in Iraq, and deliver a decisive blow against Iran's ability to strike Israel with ballistic missiles. All part of Israel's three-pronged plan to destroy Iran's military capabilities, nuclear stockpile, proxy network, missile arsenal. 2023 to 2024, Israel crippled Hamas, Hezbollah, and ousted Assad. In 2025, they rendered Natanz and Fordow inoperable. Once the proxy network is dismantled and Iran's missile building capacity is destroyed, Iran will be completely defenseless and unable to retaliate against Israel for a decapitation strike on the Islamic regime or covert regime change efforts. That's my fear. That's what I see the big geopolitical shakeup, crazy war will be in 2026. It's something of that nature. The United States bordered a third tanker near Venezuela. The Panama-flagged U.S.-sanctioned Bella 1 en route to Venezuela. The vessel Bella 1 was under U.S. sanctions and had abruptly turned away from Venezuela following the seizure of the first Venezuela-linked oil tanker on December 10th. It's likely to avoid an attempted seizure. It was traveling to Venezuela from Iran. So, yeah. Let's see, what do we got here? Mark's right. Mark says, most people think this is about drugs coming into the United States. It's not. It's about controlling the region and sending a message. Keep remembering we are going to war. We're going to need the oil. That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. You're correct in saying it. We've been saying it here too. And yeah, that's what's going on. It's multi-tiered. We clean up our backyard, we get it all taken care of, So the outside influences don't have a oil gas station right south of us, and then we take that gas station over, and it's ours, So, yeah, and no oil for China. My perception, correct. You know what, guys? You're the smart. These are the smarties. I got the smarties here. That's what we jokingly say. You guys are the AP class. So that's why the general education fools, there's 5 sections to them, and the AP class, there's only 1. U.S. oil blockade of Venezuela pushes Cuba towards collapse. This is an important one and plays onto it, and could also, of course, add to the problems with finance or financials. Communist-ruled island was already suffering from food shortages, blackouts, exodus of people. Now it's facing a loss of cheap oil from Nicolas Maduro. U.S. is ratcheting up pressure on Havana's key benefactor, Venezuela's strongman Maduro, which was kept the communist-ruled nation afloat. Cheap oil, now Venezuela. Oil experts are at risk thanks to the partial blockade targeting sanctioned tankers, the kind that carry about 70% of the country's crude. Were Venezuela's oil shipments to stop or sharply decline, the Cubans know it would be devastating. It would be a collapsed Cuban economy, no question about it. Cuban exile who tracks the island's energy ties. Nearly 90% of people live in extreme poverty. 70% go without at least a meal a day. 70% of Cubans, their main concerns are the lack of food and the constant blackouts. Those can go 18 hours a day. In some regions, observatory found 78% of them intend to flee the island. So, because communism is such a great thing. Cuba's deep reliance on Venezuela means Cuba's communist government is doing all it can to prevent Maduro, who trained in Cuba as a young man, from being forced from office in his greatest challenge after nearly 13 years in office. That means ensuring he is always surrounded by security and loyal aides, with no one carrying cell phones or other electronic devices, especially after the beeper incident from our friends in the Middle East. Swedish customs, joined by the Swedish security service, have boarded a Russian ship, the Adler, after it anchored off Höganäs in Swedish waters. All right, now before I get started with this next one, you have to understand who the ISW is. It's the International Study of War. It's a think tank, or Institute for the Study of War, sorry. Institute for the Study of War. And it is a think tank of the most ardent neocons and war hawks that America has to offer. I'm pretty sure, I'm not absolutely, that Newland and Clinton have ties to this thing. So that should tell you everything you need to know before I get reading this, okay? So understand that before I read this. And here we go. ISW says Russia is intensifying its covert and overt attacks against Europe, and that Russia has entered a phase 0 informational and psychological condition setting phase to prepare for a possible NATO-Russia war in the future. 3 drones, at least 2 of which are reportedly Russian drone models, have entered Turkish airspace, crashed into Turkey since December 15th. That's according to the Turks. They said that NATO forces shot down a drone approaching a Turkish airspace in the Black Sea. They also did not specify the type or origin. The Turkish Interior Ministry reported on December 19th that the Turkish authorities found a downed Russian Orlan 10 recon drone near Izmit in northwestern Turkey. Turkish outlets reported on December 20th that a 3rd drone crashed in Balıkesir province in northwestern Turkey, possibly on an earlier date, and that there were no identifying markings on the drone. A Russian mill blogger claimed that the 3rd drone was a Russian Merlin VR reconnaissance drone. Turkish authorities have not directly attributed the incident to Russia as of that writing. The United States Coast Guard is in active pursuit of a sanctioned dark fleet vessel that is part of the Venezuelan illegal sanctions evasion, flying a false flag and under a judicial seizure order. A U.S. official told Fox News regarding reports that another vessel had been boarded and seized in the Southern Caribbean. I mean, it's been there's probably something getting boarded right now. It's really ramping up. The Bella 1 supposedly refused to be boarded by the Coast Guard in an active pursuit. Coast Guard tried to intercept it, and it's now fleeing in the Caribbean Sea. According to the 3 U.S. officials who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss this sensitive operation, Trump said he would crack down on sanctioned vessels involved, and he is definitely doing that. Bella 1 en route to pick up oil in Venezuela was not carrying cargo, according to officials and ship tracking data. Tanker has been under sanctions since last year for transporting Iranian oil, which under federal authorities say is sold to finance terror. When U.S. forces approached the Bella 1 late on Saturday, it was not flying a valid national flag, officials said, making it a stateless vessel liable to be boarded at sea under international law. Well, because the Centuries is not under U.S. sanctions, a U.S. official told the Washington Post the Coast Guard relied on a maritime law called the right to visit, which allows a warship to board and inspect a vessel it suspects is engaging in illicit activity. The official spoke on condition of anonymity to provide details that were not yet public. U.S. got permission from the government of Panama to board the vessel, the official said. So, yeah. Patriot. Yes. Hello, Stormy. Hopefully we won't be speaking Mandarin in 10 years. All right. Sorry, I'm just going through and seeing our friends in the chat. Good to see you guys chat. Wow, Mark is a linguist, if you will. I can do Spanish and English. I know a little bit of Japanese. I know a really nasty phrase in Korean, and we'll just leave it at that. All right. Let's see. Here we go. Israel is preparing for another war with Iran next year. Israel's security establishment warns the upcoming confrontation with Iran will be the most difficult yet, according to Haaretz. Israel takes the threat of ballistic missiles very seriously, which is an existential threat, no less than the nuclear threat, according to Eyal Zamir, the Israeli chief of staff. Israeli Channel 14 reports that Trump and Netanyahu will discuss the second phase of the Gaza peace deal, disarmament of Hezbollah in Lebanon, the possible sale of F-35s to Qatar and Turkey, but more importantly, Netanyahu will raise the Iranian file with strike plans. U.S. is considering sanctioning Spain over Israel, according to Channel 11. The United States is considering taking punitive measures against Spain over Madrid's refusal to allow ships carrying military cargo intended for Israel to dock in its ports, considering these steps undermine American maritime trade freedom. In Ohio, a Walmart shoplifter tried to shoot a cop in the brain space. The gun clicked. 21-year-old Shane Newman immediately pounced on by employee and officer. He's now charged with attempted murder. You can say goodbye to that guy forever. What an idiot. He's sitting there. They've got, camera on him, video. Evidently he's trying to steal some stuff, and all of a sudden he just whips the thing out and goes to take out the cop. I don't know who this Walmart employee is, but man, he came out of nowhere and tackled this dude who's handling a loaded weapon from what it looks like. And of course, he could control the guy, but it came out of nowhere. But that stupid split-second decision by that kid is probably going to make it so he has never sees freedom again. Trump will not approve a large-scale Israeli attack on Iran, according to Israeli Channel 11. Despite that, Israel has prepared a comprehensive intelligence dossier to convince Trump on new Iranian strikes. Paper contains Iran's ongoing efforts to rebuild its nuclear and ballistic programs and efforts to arm its proxy groups, Israel Hayom. Israel warned the U.S. that an ongoing missile exercise and other unusual movements by Iran, especially by the IRGC, could be preparations for an attack against Israel, according to Axios. United States margin debt jumped $30 billion in November to a record $1.21 trillion, seventh consecutive monthly increase. During this time, margin debt has surged $364 billion, or 43%. Adjusted for inflation, margin debt rose 2% month over month, 32% year over year, highest. Not good. Japan's inflation outbreak, it rose 2.9% year over year, second highest, so that means probably 12%. Core inflation, which excludes prices of fresh food, because why would you want to have that in your inflation? That doesn't affect anything, right? That rose 3% year over year, marks the 44th consecutive month with inflation above the Bank of Japan's target rate of 2%. Active fund managers are struggling. Investors are on track to withdraw a record $605 billion from global active equity funds this year. It surpasses the previous record of $450 billion. It also marks the 10th annual outflow over the last 11 years. And so it's, cashing in. Global money supply is out of control, you don't say. Global money supply is now at a record $45 trillion. This comes as China's M1 money supply has risen to $16.5 trillion, an all-time high. China has driven the majority of global money supply growth this year. It's because everybody's printing. So if you don't, make sure it's physical. I'm not not a financial advisor, but we are buying physical things with our money. I'll just leave it at that. Foreign holdings of U.S. Treasuries fell $5.8 billion to October to $9.2 trillion, but they remain the second highest level on record. China's holdings, third largest holder, declined $11.8 billion to $688.7 billion. That is the lowest since 2008. AI boom is accelerating. U.S. tech companies are committing to spend a combined $569 billion on data center leases over the next several years. A lease is a long-term rental agreement, meaning these companies commit to multi-year payments for data centers, offices, or whatever. United States Consumer Sentiment Assessment of current economic conditions has declined to 50.4 points. That's the lowest level on record. 5 points and 8 points below the lows seen in 2022 and 2008. So this is a lower consumer sentiment than what people felt in 2008. Think about that for a moment. Index stood 11 points higher in 1980. Wow. U.S. pending home sales fell 5.8% year over year in the 4 weeks ending December 14th, marking the largest decline since the start of 2025. Weakness was broad-based, with pending sales falling in all but 6 of the 50 largest U.S. metro areas. Thank you, God, for helping us sell our house and doing the wonderful things in our lives that you are doing. Stock market's run has been historic. U.S. households now own more equities than real estate as a percentage of their net worth, third such occurrence over the last 65 years. Comes as the corporate equities and mutual funds rose to 31% of net worth in Q2 2025. Gold futures have surged to a new record high of $4,415. That's now up 67% this year. Asset owners keep on winning. Yes, they do. Absolutely incredible. Silver is now hitting daily record highs, up 140% in 2025 alone. Technicals don't matter anymore, and we've seen 8 straight green months. When do people finally start paying attention? You better. My thanks to a sub who has sent me a Bill Holter video. I haven't watched it yet, but he's got good stuff on this, and I look forward to it. So I appreciate them. You know who you are for sending it to me. Other than that, folks, that is your crisis report. And we are, we're not doing well. If the consumer sentiment is worse than 2008 and 11 points lower than 1980, I think you know everything you need to know. That means that we are worse than when people did the Reagan Revolution. We're worse than the greatest global financial crisis since the Great Depression. And here we are. It's bad. So silver is currently at $69.36. Thanks so much, SRD, for everything too, dude. Seriously. He gave me a big old fat tip on PrepperNow, I believe yesterday. So awesome. But yeah, that's the deal. That's what's going on. So it's getting rough out there, folks, especially from a financial standpoint. The geopolitics are not going to help either. So no, you won't want to leave the house when correct. You have to find a nice area of my land here when we finally get into it where I can stockpile some stuff if we need to kind of keep it off site, if you will. But yeah. Hey, thanks to everybody for being here. Thanks for those that are members. It really helps the cause here. These videos are, for me, doing all right. I appreciate you. We're going to keep the crisis report flowing. We're over on Rumble and X as we speak too. PrepperNow is doing its thing, and go check that video of what I see coming in 2026. Join us on X and Minds and Gab and Truth and all that. And yeah. Stay safe out there, folks. I agree, Tenna. We have problems, and the problem is that everything seems like, not that it's getting better or whatever, but it's like just a slow decline. Everything is just slowly declining. Well, at some point, something is going to happen, and it's going to go from slow to quick. I don't know when that is. It could be 5 years, 5 months, 5 days, 5 minutes from now. I don't know. What I do know is that preparing yourself is a smart thing. It's not hyperbolic. It's not crazy. It's not stupid. It's not, I don't know why. I have some ideas of why they want to paint people that prepare as crazy, but it's literally why you are here, because someone, however many generations ago, said, you know what, maybe we want to do this because it might be a cold winter, or we might have bad weather, or we might be tough to grow food, or something like that. I mean, that's why we're all here. So I'm proud to be a prepper, even though, as SRD aptly pointed out the other day, we're on the list. If being sane and doing things where I don't have to be beholden to other people and I can take care of my business whenever there's a problem, if that's insanity, then paint me insane. So, all right, friends, we appreciate you. God bless you all. We will see you on the next one. And have a great night. We're brought to you by Augusta Precious Metals. Check them out. They're amongst all the other links in the description. And thank you for being here. God bless.